Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to check the videos out. I really do appreciate it. We have more PlayStation news to go over and cover in this video. I think you guys are certainly going to be interested in some of these topics that we cover here today. So before we dive into it, be sure to hit the like button to help the video out and show your support, and hit the subscribe button as well if you are new here to the channel. Now, the first topic is something that I found pretty interesting because it seems like it's actually true. Now, of course, it is a rumor, but I think at this point we can kind of put two and two together and realize that, yeah, this seems to be exactly what's happening. So what am I talking about? Well, it seems that Sony is doing everything in its power to ensure that Final Fantasy doesn't go to Xbox and remains exclusive to PlayStation. Now, that's not counting PC, but we're going to go over this information and discuss it. So it says here, Final Fantasy games may not release on Xbox consoles this generation, as Sony wants PlayStation to be the home of the series. Speaking on the Reset Era forums, VGC's Jordan Midler commented on the Japanese publisher's future games, saying that most of them will end up on Xbox, but not Final Fantasy games. He likely refers to future major entries in the series, as Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin is releasing on the Xbox consoles in about 2 months. Most of Square's stuff will end up on Xbox, but I wouldn't hold out hope for Final Fantasy unless something changes. Sony wants PlayStation to be the home of Final Fantasy this generation. Final Fantasy VII was supposed to be on Xbox by now, but here we are. Apparently, Square Enix is in Sony's camp, beyond what's publicly known, with multiple timed exclusives in the works. Additionally, the first announcements will be coming before long. So I find this pretty interesting. It's pretty clear based off of not only what we're seeing, but now what we're hearing from people who are in the know, that Sony is doing everything they can to try to keep Final Fantasy on PlayStation and essentially keep it off of Xbox. And this isn't the most surprising thing, but it is interesting to hear it talked about in this way, because you had to kind of wonder, is this just something that Square Enix wanted to do, or is it something that Sony wants? And it seems like it's a mutual thing here. PlayStation wants to have a close relationship with Square Enix and continue to grow that relationship, and Square Enix seems to be on Sony's side here, where they're like, okay, Final Fantasy is one of our biggest, most well-known IPs. It's one of the biggest IPs in gaming history, and they are apparently willing to make many of their titles exclusive to PlayStation, which is pretty significant, I'd say. I mean, Final Fantasy VII Remake, I have always kind of wondered why this game hasn't released on Xbox. I was fully expecting it to release on Xbox at some point. In fact, I think there were even some Xbox fans who were expecting it to release on Xbox, and it hasn't, and it doesn't seem like it's going to. Next up, we have Final Fantasy 16, which is going to be massive, and now we're hearing that apparently it's just not going to go to Xbox. And on top of that, there are even more games that we don't know about yet that are going to be announced in the future, and they're going to be PlayStation exclusive. So pretty significant information here, I'd say, especially if you are a Final Fantasy fan or just a fan of Square Enix's games. We're moving on to the next topic, though, which talks about Spider-Man 2. Writer Brittany M. Morris, who worked on the story for Subnautica Below Zero, has joined Insomniac Games and is working on Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Her other works include The Lost Legends of Redwell, an episodic adventure game, and Wings of Fury, a comic book story that serves as the official prequel to Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales. Morris has also worked on acclaimed novels like Slay and The Cost of Knowing, and is currently writing The Jump, which is expected to release next year. Thus far, not a lot is known about the story of Insomniac's sequel, save for it featuring both Peter Parker and Miles Morales, while finally introducing Venom. The developer has indicated that it will be darker than previous titles, while actor Tony Todd, who plays Venom, says it's going to be massive. And as we know, it's currently slated for a 2023 release. And I wanted to be sure to let you guys know this because, there is still a lot of work being done to Spider-Man 2. And I think the thing that people are focusing in on with this writer in particular is that she wrote the comic book story that is the prequel to Spider-Man Miles Morales. So people are assuming that that's why she's being brought on to help kind of flesh out whatever Miles' role is going to be in Spider-Man 2, which seems like it's going to be a very significant role. So there you go. That's the latest update I have for you when it comes to Spider-Man 2. Moving right along here, though, we're talking about KOTOR Remake. We have some new information about this game that honestly gets me significantly more excited for it. And I want to go over this with you. This was one of the bigger announcements that Sony made last year, announcing that KOTOR is getting a from the ground up remake and it will be a PlayStation 5 exclusive. So apparently KOTOR Remake is rumored to have brand new play modes. So Aspire's upcoming Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake is rumored to have brand new play modes, straying from the original's turn-based combat and following a similar path to games like God of War and Neo. Despite confirmation that KOTOR Remake is inbound, there is not a whole lot known regarding its gameplay or official launch date. What is known is that the KOTOR Remake is a timed PS5 exclusive at launch, despite original KOTOR games having been Xbox exclusive for 4 generations. Other details about KOTOR Remake have been slim, though that hasn't stopped rampant speculation and rumors. YouTuber Mr. Matty Plays previously claimed that the Star Wars KOTOR reboot will stray from its strict RPG elements, adding in a more action-focused combat style. The original KOTOR games had turn-based combat in which players mapped out each turn before combat commenced. The style, however, has been somewhat disregarded in recent RPGs, with simultaneous or action combat dominating the industry. Though that massive change might worry fans of the original game, Aspire has been working closely with the KOTOR franchise for a while, having developed all its port work, which could mean KOTOR's changes won't be too drastic or stray from the original's charm. It was also rumored that Aspire acquired BioWare talent for KOTOR's remake, which adds to the studio's credibility in properly rebooting a fan favorite series. Now, this is very interesting to me because I have to say that this was one of the things that I was really wondering about this KOTOR remake. You know, was it going to kind of stay true to the roots and be a turn-based RPG? And as this says, some people might be very concerned if that's what they choose not to do. But for me, I'm not a big fan of turn-based combat. I'm a much bigger fan of just kind of moment-to-moment real-time combat. And this sounds awesome to me. This is kind of what I was hoping they would do. Although I do imagine that they'll probably let you choose, or they'll have some type of hybrid system kind of similar to what they had with Final Fantasy VII Remake. That's kind of what I'm getting from this rumor and this report. And the fact that they're taking inspiration from God of War and Neo, these are 2 games that absolutely nail the combat side of things. And so if they can kind of replicate that and give it its own unique feel, I mean, I'm going to be very excited for this. So yeah, I want to let you guys know about this, but we do have some more rumors to go over regarding KOTOR Remake, as well as the sequel to Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. So we recently heard from Jeff Grubb that Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order 2 would be revealed sometime before E3. Now, according to Bespin Bulletin, we're learning that a release date target is set for fall 2022, while the highly anticipated KOTOR Remake is set for 2023. Barring any delays, both release targets do at least feel accurate, especially considering the pairing up of Star Wars IP between the release of a new show and a new game. So this is something I wanted to be sure to let you guys know, because I have to say, I wasn't expecting Jedi Fallen Order 2, or whatever it's going to be called, to actually release this year, but the more I think about it, it does make sense, and I really enjoyed that game. That was one of the best games I played last gen for sure, one of the best Star Wars games, so I'm very much looking forward to a sequel. And KOTOR Remake is apparently targeting 2023, which I don't think is that surprising. I would assume it's probably the second half of 2023, but, you know, we'll have to wait to get more information on that. And the source where we're getting this information from, Bespin Bulletin, they're pretty well known when it comes to Star Wars leaks and inside information regarding Star Wars, so that's worth noting as well. We're moving right along here, though, and talking about Hideo Kojima's next game, because we do have a little bit more information on it. Hideo Kojima and Kojima Productions are currently working on a AAA game that everyone will say that they want to play. Speaking during the NHK radio special, Wonderful World of Game Music, as reported by Genki on Twitter, the legendary game designer commented on what is currently going on at Kojima Productions. Unfortunately, Hideo Kojima didn't elaborate further on his studio's AAA games, so we don't know what it will be that will make this a game that everyone will say that they want to play. Additionally, Hideo Kojima revealed that he wants to work on a smaller project that is not an open world or shooter game, and that his LA production studio is also working on an anime alongside drama and film. So yeah, that's pretty much the most we got from this, but it is pretty interesting because it does make you wonder what type of game is this AAA title, to where Kojima is saying it's a title that everyone will say that they want to play. Now, I think it's important to note that there is a difference between somebody saying everyone will say they want to play it and everyone will play it, because I saw a few people saying that him using this terminology is implying that it's going to be a game for all ages. So maybe it won't be like a mature themed game. It won't be like a horror game. I'm not getting that from this quote. Again, if it's a correct translation, he says it's a big AAA title that everyone will say that they want to play. So to me, that seems like intentional. You know, he's not saying that they will play it. They'll just say that they want to play it. I don't know. I feel like that could actually mean a horror title, because I feel like that's kind of a common thing that people do with horror games, is they see it and they're like, oh, that looks great and I want to play it. But then they end up not, because they're too scared, or, you know, a lot of people just can't handle playing horror games. So I feel like that's another way of looking at it. But again, it could be something completely different. And I do find it interesting that he makes it known that he would like to work on a smaller project that is not an open world game or shooter. I would like to know, you know, what he has in mind when it comes to that. So that's the latest update I have for you when it comes to Kojima Productions. And finally, we are talking about Ghostwire Tokyo briefly. Is Ghostwire Tokyo about to release, or is it coming very soon? The new game from Shinji Mikami's Tango Gameworks was announced with a fair amount of excitement back in 2019, but updates on the PS5 console exclusive have been somewhat sparse since launch. Last we heard, the game has been penciled in for a spring 2022 release date, but can we really expect to play the game soon? It seems we can, as the game has been officially rated by the Korean Game Rating Committee. This would seem to indicate a release is coming sometime fairly soon. The Korean board has given the game a 15+ rating for realistic but not excessive violence. So yeah, it's been a while since we've heard from Ghostwire Tokyo, and I think some people are kind of wondering naturally, you know, is this game going to launch in early 2022, or, you know, within the first half? And if this rating is anything to go by, it seems like it is on track, and it certainly seems like the first half of 2022 is looking pretty stacked for PS5 owners, which is awesome. So there you go. That's the video. That's all the information I have for you. Be sure to leave your thoughts about everything we discussed down in the comments below. Leave the video a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Hit the bell notification icon, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.